Welcome, everybody, on this new episode, talking about digital infrastructure, how solution work. But today it's going to be specifically on explaining what digital infrastructure is, because there seems to be a lack of full understanding of what's happening on the ground. And I'm specifically talking about the African market, right? Now, if you look on this picture right here, you can see when we talk about digital infrastructure in Africa, we only talk about the internet. If you look at all the investment that is being done, it's been done on internet infrastructure, mostly. Not only, but mostly. And I'm not saying that's not important because it's also missing. I've been back on the continent now for 10 years and I've seen the dramatic change led truly by the telecom industry, but also ISP like Liquid. But when you talk about internet, you only talk about the flow of information. You can see the stairs, right? When someone here trying to access a YouTube video, right, that person or that computer has to send a signal, and I'm simplifying, but send a request to wherever that video is. Most of the time is inside servers, outside the continent. And then that request sends back the information to the end user. And that distance, usually part of it, more big part of it, that's what the cost. And because the further the distance is, the more expensive it is for accessing that information. That's why internet in Africa is among the most expensive in the world. Why? Because yes, we are building the flow of information, the highways of the internet. We definitely are building that. But the storage, computing power to process that information um, is lacking dramatically. It's changing, but lacking. And the further that storage or those servers are, the more expensive it becomes. So since COVID, we realized there was a huge opportunity in that infrastructure space of storage, computing power. Um, and we looked at different ways to solve that problem because, again, our real mission is to bring infrastructure closer to the user so the user can truly access that information or application um, at a very, very low cost. You can even call it zero cost because if you're on the Wi-Fi radius, and we'll talk a little bit more, if you're on the Wi-Fi radius of the box, then you can even access that application or content offline without having the need of having internet on your phone. And that's really where the game changer is. So when we look at the problem, we realize building a traditional data centers, which are usually centralized, they're high-end servers, high capacity server. It's very expensive. And if you look carefully for those who are using cloud today as business, if you are using cloud today, the startups, SME, you can see that cloud cost has been going up every year and it's increasing dramatically. And now with AI, with the demand of computing power, it's going to be even more. So even if you build those data centers um, now on the continent, the cost is too expensive. Electricity cost in Africa is very high. You need a huge amount of water cooling system to cool those servers, right? Um, the build of the infrastructure is still going to be out of reach for the small businesses, right? So we decided, why not use a different type of architecture that is much simpler, does not require this heavy duty construction and all that. And they basically, we distribute servers in different locations, but they work as one, and we'll talk a little bit about it. But this is really where the idea bubble up. This idea of edge gateway was born from my previous technology, which is was a smart solar kiosk, and we used to use, as you can see on the picture on the right, we used to use edge gateways on the kiosk to provide strictly content. So it was not really a new idea. Edge gateways or bringing server locally is not really new, but we decided to evolve that idea to make it much more to accommodate more different type of applications, right? So initially, what we've done is we've brought Wi-Fi, storage, and computing power into one system. And if you look at the edge, I mean, we have a different edge, but it's the same concept. If you look here, it's the size of a router, but it has Wi-Fi module. It has a storage module here. The Wi-Fi module is actually here. The storage is here, and it has a computing power also. This one is a CPU, so it's a mini board. It's a mini computer with Wi-Fi capability that you can install anywhere. So the first use cases we decided to look at was how to build a Wi-Fi management system. But we realized, man, there's a lot more opportunities than just Wi-Fi management system, right? Today, if you're a business, let's say you're a healthcare center or a school. Today, if and I've visited schools, I've visited the health centers. We're currently working at the arena. I've visited some of their infrastructure. They have so much hardware equipment. It's just ridiculous. Now, for big organization, I understand some of it, but for small organization, if you want a security camera, you need to buy the camera, of course, but you got to buy a storage system as one hardware, camera hardware. And then if you want Wi-Fi at your location, also you got to buy the access point, the routers, right? Fit to your need. Then, if you want to run some application like health application, ERP is mostly for businesses that want to have an inventory management system, point of sales, HR, all that digitized and much more. By the way, they can either use it on premise, so they got on premise mean locally, so they got to buy a separate server for that, or they can get it via the cloud. But as I mentioned earlier, the cloud cost is going up, and guess who's that cost is going to? It's the customer, right? The developers of those applications, they're not going to take on that cost and keep the cost low. So you have to get all those hardware. If you decide to use some of those applications on the cloud, you got to pay a premium for that. And that's why digital transformation is out of reach for 70% of small and medium-sized businesses in Africa. 70. It's a huge number. Um, because every business we talk to, they want to digitize. Of course, it brings efficiency. They can collect better data, know exactly. I'll give you a use case we're using for restaurants. They don't know how many customers they're serving. They book tables manually. So digitization makes sense. There's no argument on that. But cost. When you deal with a business, especially a small, medium-sized business, right? And one thing I forgot to answer, cloud, you got to pay in hard currency. You got to pay in dollars. Most cloud, at least. That's why now they're trying to bring clouds on the country. But if they build by foreign entities, which most of the cloud in Africa are done by, Oracle's, Microsoft, and all, they're going to ask for hard currency because they got to take that money back. But that's a different topic. So when you have a small and medium-sized business trying to digitize, and you're already telling him you got to deal with this vendor, this one, that one, you got a different payment structure, you got to pay this guy separately, that guy, you got to keep up with all those things. We realize there's a huge opportunity to simplify this, right? Now, we can bring all those applications on the edge, and you have one system, one payment, and you pay local currency, of course. No more dealing with all those different, cost of paying and keeping up with your vendors, your payment, and all. You can do all that on the edge, right? And that will simplify the process. Now, second thing is if your internet is slow, down, it doesn't matter. You can access those applications offline via Wi-Fi. We containerize all application on the edge. You don't need to run all those applications at once. You actually choose which application you need, and that's the only thing that you're going to see on your dashboard. So it's a very modular system, right? And finally, it's low cost because for us, we own the infrastructure layer and part of the application layer because we don't develop and we don't want to develop all those applications. They already exist, right? So we either work with third parties that want to host the application on our edge, or we open this infrastructure to our marketplace where you can build it and host it on our edge to be distributed to the customer. But the value is massive, right? You save a lot of money. Now you pay in local currency. You don't have to worry about the internet being working all the time. And you don't have to pay different vendors. And there's others benefit for this. But this is why edge technology is so valuable. Because it's not an expensive technology compared to data center. Now, I'm not trying to say that can replace data center. No, because you can use edge with data center. Edge is not for heavy stuff. Let's be clear about that. It's not for heavy stuff. If you're a bank, if you're a telecom company, you're not going to run all your stuff on an edge box. You can run some of it on the edge and some of it on the cloud. It's called a hybrid model, right? Our focus is edge because we want to bring digital transformation for small and medium-sized businesses. That's our goal, right? And this is how infrastructure works. So we distribute this infrastructure in different locations: schools, buses, public space, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, name it. Whoever wants to digitize their location, they can use our edge gateway because it brings Wi-Fi capability, and we all know Wi-Fi is you can't run a business without having Wi-Fi at your location. So that's just the basic that is already built on our edge. But you can build other stuff on the same box. And the great thing is all our boxes communicate with each other. So if you want to also host application, and I'll do a video specifically for that, but if you want to host your application also, if you're looking for a low-cost infrastructure to host, or if you're looking for low-cost infrastructure for computing power, or if you're looking for low-cost infrastructure to build your AI model, you'll be able to do that on our infrastructure. So it's a multi-purpose, so it's a shared infrastructure. It's a shared infrastructure, but much more affordable because it's fully distributed. So we don't have no cooling system. We don't have to pay for internet because it's hosted by the company, the business that hosting the edge box. So they have to have their own electricity, their own internet. So we can be 30, 40, 50% cheaper than your standalone data centers if you're an SME. All right, I hope you enjoyed the video. Put some comment below what you would love to know more, and I can do a video about it. And if you have any question, of course, don't hesitate to ask. Take care.